to bring a person who I dragged to a lot of games growing up, a lot of my games, a lot of my events, a lot of my practices, and I figured I'd still drag her into doing my class today for me. So I brought in my beautiful wife, who's going to talk to you a little bit about grief and loss. And it's not a subject that's easy to talk about. I get, like, no one wants to say, let's talk about death. But what I'm going to ask you to do is listen to what she has to say, okay? Headphones off, iPads away, phones away, because this is something that we don't talk enough about. You know, we can talk all you want about the equations and this fact and that fact, but here's something that's real, okay? Not fake, okay? You can't put a filter on death. You can't. Death is real, and everybody experiences it in a different way. So take a listen to what she has to say today. Some powerful words, and if you don't respect her, I hear about it at home. So.
Also, I'll call you out on it. So, this is it. I had some kids like laughing here in a second, and they were like doing their own talk, and I wanted to know what was funny about death, and they didn't think that was funny. So apparently, it's not that funny. So my name is Carrie, obviously, and I am a child and adolescent therapist up at Oaklawn. I'm also a part of Dustin's place, which we will talk about in a little bit. But I talk a lot about grief and loss because in my own life, I had somebody die when I was relatively young. I was in middle school, was really close to this person, and my peers did not get it. And years later, after switching my degree, I figured out that grief and loss, especially with kids, is really important. But also about me, so I have a really cool husband. He's a pretty good coach. I like him. He just happens to be back there. He's pretty great.
Dude, no way.
Dude, isn't that crazy? But also,
What's his name?
Mr. Havermill.
Dude, we have a guy like in this class.
How did he get that?
Wait,
I think he teaches health well. It'll be crazy.
That would be crazy. Mr. Havermill, that I know, really likes health and wellness and never stops talking about healthy food. Is it the same one? That's pretty close.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you should fix that.
We should see if it's the same person. But then also, another thing in my life that's really important is I really love my dog and she loves me more. Her name is Savannah and she is incredibly cute. So those are some important things about me. So what is grief? Grief, there's a couple different things, but specifically with today we're talking about when somebody dies or is at the end stages of life. When somebody dies, like in a car accident or different things, that grief is very sudden. It happens. But when somebody is at the end stages of life, like when somebody gets a diagnosis of cancer or something, and all of a sudden they get a due date, the people around them, as well as that person, they grieve what's coming. So we call it anticipatory grief, and that has its own set of different emotions. And we'll get a little bit into that in a little bit. Grief is a normal part of life. We start life and life ends. That's just a part of how things go. And so everyone will experience grief at some point. And so rather than shying away from it and saying like, we'll wait till that person dies, we'll wait, being able to think about it and talk about it is really important. And it comes in stages. Does anybody know the stages of grief or even how many there are? You get extra cool points later. Yeah? It is. It's fine. I heard it at the same time. Y'all get them. Yes.
Denial, bargaining, anger, acceptance.
And you're missing one.
Cool.
Denial, anger, said acceptance. Which one? I don't want to like give you the other one. But it's in here. So, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so this is by, whoa.
Sorry.
Whoa. Speedy Gonzalez over here. So Kubler-Ross are the people that invented, kind of brought this up. And so with denial, obviously when somebody dies right away, you're like, that is not true. I can't tell you how many people are like, I still don't believe it. Sometimes they still don't. But you're going to get things like avoidance and confusion or just pure shock. They just don't understand something has happened. And then anger, being angry or having some really big anxiety coming from that. But it's really important to get information and communication. That way those things can be decreased, being able to say, like, this is what happened, this is what we're going through. Then we get bargaining, so struggling to find meaning. People really struggle with why people have died, especially when somebody has died recently. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes. Sometimes it happens. It always happens because that is a part of life. reaching out to others, maybe they're trying their best just to gain some sort of control from the situation. And then telling their story can also be really important, and you're gonna want a lot of emotional support for the bargaining and depression. Depression can feel very overwhelming, or like when we think about depression in general, things like not taking care of your body, a lot of really tiredness, there's a lot of physical symptoms that come with the depression piece, and then acceptance. This says moving on, but I'm really passionate about saying moving forward. We don't move on when somebody dies, that relationship is still a big part of who you are. And just because those memories are not continually being made, that doesn't mean that that person didn't matter. So we say moving forward. And then putting a new plan in place, maybe along with acceptance. Maybe you've decided you want to bring up something new in your life. So maybe all of a sudden that person who died really loved running, you bring in running as something that you start to do to commemorate them, things like that. People do a lot of different things. And so guidance and direction is a big part of that. As much as we would like to think that it comes in this super smooth line, it does not. We often see it like this. Like I said, I had somebody die when I was in middle school. I've had a lot of different types of grief, a lot of different kinds. And so it looks more like this insane squiggly line, and it goes back and forth. I was driving home yesterday from work, and I heard a song on the radio, and I instantly thought of my aunt. That's the person that died when I was in middle school. And I immediately just felt really sad. But then obviously I'm able to bounce out of that and realize some other different things here. But it just reminds us that we are always experiencing that grief journey because that person really mattered. So it's important. So what comes with grief? Obviously we're not robots. We have a lot of different things that happen with us when we are experiencing that. So feelings like anger and sadness. With worry, sometimes if that person died and they were, like a parent, sibling, sometimes we get worried with that anticipatory grief that, we're waiting for that person to die. Sometimes we can feel guilt about feeling relief. Sometimes we feel guilt in general when someone dies, but with relief, like that person is no longer in pain and we can feel really ugly about feeling that way. But that is a part of life, we accept like that person's no longer in pain and that is okay to feel relief. Fear and then numbness, especially as part of the depression piece. There can be a lot of thoughts and questions. How did that person die? Why did that person die? Questions like, why am I still here? Why didn't they die? There are a lot of different questions and a lot of different thoughts that come from that. And it's okay to ask those. It's really important that we ask those. Google's not always the best help, so being able to talk to each other is really important. There can be physical symptoms, so things like feeling really fatigued, so really tired, not being able to sleep, stomach aches, headaches, can come and go. Feelings of anxiety. There is a medical diagnosis called broken heart syndrome. So it's really rare, just to bring up. But if you already have some heart issues, with the amount of extreme stress, sometimes people lose muscle when they choose not to really engage about it, or maybe they're just a really big part of their life, and their heart has something very similar to a heart attack when they experience that grief, and it tends to happen within a couple months. So obviously dealing with that grief is going to be super important. And then I said it is a journey. This is not something that we have 4 weeks. We have school. By the end of Christmas you will be over this. This will be fine. No, we have triggers. We have holidays. Different. Maybe their birthday comes up. And it's harder. It's a journey, and it's always going to be a part of you because that person was a part of you.
Long overlooked, childhood bereavement is a critical public health issue nationwide. 1 in 14 children in the U.S. will experience the death of a parent or sibling by age 18. Experiencing a significant loss during childhood often results in profound stress and adversity that can derail a child's development. However, providing appropriate support to a grieving child can ease the impact and help keep a child's development on track. Access to comprehensive, grief-focused, trauma-informed care and resources is necessary for the well-being of every bereaved child. In order to provide this support, we need to know how many children are grieving. That's why Judy's House JAG Institute, in partnership with the New York Life Foundation, created the Childhood Bereavement Estimation Model. The CBEM approximates rates of U.S. children and youth who will experience the death of a parent or sibling by the time they reach adulthood. According to the 2019 CBEM report, 7% of children in the United States will become bereaved by age 18. Childhood bereavement rates vary between the states. California has the lowest rate, with an estimated 5.1% of children becoming bereaved, while a stunning 11.9% of children in West Virginia are estimated to experience the tragic loss of a parent or sibling. On average, at least one student in every high school classroom in the United States will experience the death of a parent or sibling. That means in a typical high school, more than 58 students are grieving a loss. The CBEM estimates that more than 4.9 million children across the country will be bereaved by age 18. That number more than doubles to over 12.8 million youth by age 25. It is essential to understand the number of children impacted by death to help every bereaved child find hope and healing. How many in your state? Learn more, access helpful resources, and find out how many grieving youth are in your community by visiting our website.
So the recent numbers came out over the summer, and it is 1 in 12 in the state of Indiana. We have 3 grief centers. I was able to take part and work at one of them, which is in Goshen. It's called Ryan's Place. There's another one in Fort Wayne and one in Indianapolis. But if there's 1 in 12 kids who, and you guys are all considered kids for right now, so I'm really sorry about it. You guys are all considered kids, so 1 in 12. How many children were missing? And that affects their schooling, their mental health. I mean, grief impacts every single piece of your life, and so when we're missing this, we are missing a huge part of their life. I think it's 3 days is generally what schools or places of work will give you for days even after the death of a parent or sibling. And so by the time that person dies, and then you like do the funeral, you do all those things, you're back to school in 3 days. Like you did not even get to grieve. You like sort of see a blur of things. And so the journey is much longer than that. And so I think that's really important. Also, before I get to this slide, I talk a lot about it. So in respecting other people and just giving them a space to grieve and heal, I'm really big about not saying committed suicide. It's a really big pet peeve of mine by this point. I say died by suicide or died by depression because that person did not commit a crime, so I'm saying commit. That came from the 1800s from like France because it was a law then, and we just have continued the word. So I'm choosing to talk about it so that you guys maybe can even just think about it a little bit and make that choice maybe with your language. Because it's hurtful when we hear that, you know, when somebody in our life has died by suicide, it can be really difficult. So let's see, things to remember. Nobody's grief is the same. When I told one of my friends that my aunt had died when I was in middle school by overdose, their response was like, isn't that like when your dog runs away? Like, it's kind of like that, right? I've had that happen to me. No, it's not at all similar. My aunt was I was very close with her, and so it's kind of like a punch in the face a little bit. And so I carry that with me. I think about it a lot. So nobody's grief is the exact same, even when 2 people who were the same age have had like their moms die. That, you know, is still going to be different because that relationship was different, and you know, those memories are different. Like everything is just different about it. So we could say I've had something similar happen, but also giving them that space to really hear it and be able to hear them out is something important. It's not something we ever get over. It is a journey that we work through. There are no right or wrong ways to grieve. I've had kids get really pumped up, and like I had some girl who was like weightlifting. Now she just qualified for the nationals. I didn't even get to tell you. She like qualified for nationals for weightlifting, and she's all younger than you, so that's really crazy. She's going to the Arnold, which is really cool. Or I have people who journal. I have people who get really into like all sorts of things. Maybe music is all of a sudden really important to you. Like you make changes, but the way you grieve, there's no right or wrong, and as long as you're not hurting yourself, that is okay. And then every grief is different. So like I said, I've had multiple people die in my life, and every single one has hit me in a different way. And it reminds me about the people before, that every single grief is different. So when I talk about grief, I use these two squares at the bottom. So the square, the big one, is like your life. That is your life. And when that death happens, when it first happens, it's super consuming. So you're getting that huge circle. It's taking up everything. You are exhausted. We forget to take care of our physical selves, just all those things. And then the little square in here is it's like a trigger button. So that could be something that like extra reminds you of who that person is, things like that. And as we go through our journey and we're working through things and we're moving forward, the circle is still there. It's much smaller. You know, we've moved from constantly thinking about them to, you know, we're getting things done, we're making new memories, making new things, we're moving forward. So that circle is smaller, not because they're any less important, but because things are still moving forward for us. And that trigger button is still there. And we think of it like a bouncy ball. It still is going to hit it. You know, like I said, I was listening to music the other day, I was listening to it yesterday, and I thought of my aunt. Yeah, she died when I was like in middle school, so like 10, 12, whatever. And it still like made me really sad. But I was able to process through that, and that was okay. I think by the time I got home, I had forgotten about it. But it's just, those triggers are still going to be there. It's really important to remember. So another reason I'm here is to talk about Dustin's Place. We are getting ready to open in Plymouth. So I said there are 3 grief centers. We're opening a 4th here in Plymouth, just down the road, but it's important to know who Dustin is. So on August 2nd, 2016, Dustin, who is the father of these 3, died in a single car accident while on his way home from Plymouth here to Bremen. And he died leaving his 3 young children and Vicky to grieve that loss. Vicky is one of the PE teachers at Bremen, so super close to home. And then so Vicky obviously grieving that loss and not sure how to help her 2 really young children. Obviously the little one was much too young to really know what was going on. But the older 2, she took them to Ryan's Place in Goshen and saw just what an impact peer support can do. And so she decided that we need to have one here in Marshall County. If somebody here is grieving, the closest one is over an hour away. So how are you guys going to get that peer support? So we're opening Dustin's Place in January. And January 6th, every other week, on Mondays, from I think it's either 6 or 6:30 to 8 o'clock or so, there's a free meal. We all eat together. And then there are peer support groups, so depending on your age, you would sit with other people who have had a similar grief experience and just get to process together what it's like to be in high school and grieving. A lot of times, like I said, people don't always get death unless they've experienced it, and every grief is different, and so it can be really healing. Actually, it is the #1 way to heal from grief is through peer support. The Dougie Center talks about it a little bit in the video I will show next. But it's really important, so know that that is coming. Maybe you haven't personally experienced a really big grief, but you'd like to be a volunteer. We also need some of that. But that is Dustin's Place. And this can be kind of emotional, so if you guys feel like you need to step out, it's okay. It's not super emotional, not everybody's going to cry, but just saying.
At first, my parents made me come. I didn't really know what the Dougie Center was.
Why would you want to go somewhere where everybody's talking about the death of someone in their lives?
I knew that I wasn't really ready to talk about it, but my parents were a mess, so I was like, okay, I can do this for you. I came in and I was actually really surprised to see how caring and like real everybody was, real like connections and support.
The Dougie Center is a nonprofit organization that works with children up through teens and young adults who've experienced the death of a brother or sister or parent. Death is a pretty big equalizer in terms of what really matters in life. We start with 3-year-olds, so we have groups for 3 to 5-year-olds, and we have groups for 6 to 12-year-olds.
My name is Noah, I'm 8 years old, and my dad died of cancer. My mom died of depression. I'm 9 years old, and the person who died was my dad, and how he died is he got really sick.
We've tried really hard to make the Dougie Center feel like a home away from home. For the younger children, where you can play in any of the many different playrooms, art rooms, outside area for bigger play, a music room, and we have a dress-up area with a stage where they can perform their own plays, rooms for higher energy activity. We have a room called the Volcano Room, which is a very popular room.
When I first started coming here, I was 11, and I had a lot of anger at the time, so I used the Volcano Room to take anger out. Anger is part of grief because you're just frustrated trying to figure out why it happened or why to you.
Some of our kids are being told not to feel what they're feeling. We're saying it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hurt people. So how can we help you get your energy out in ways that are positive? We also have a hospital room, which is really a playroom, but it's a reconstruction of a hospital room. And it's very popular, particularly with kids who've had someone die in a hospital setting. Through younger children, we do see how much what they're wondering about comes out through their play.
Hello, hello, who are you today? What's your name?
Amaya.
And how old are you?
3.
3.
I wanted to sing ABC with my mom, and then my mom stopped singing, and then her body stopped singing.
So your mom stopped singing and her body stopped singing. And then what happened?
Then she died. Then I was crying, and it was not good. I have a bad feeling.
A bad feeling when that happened?
Until you've experienced death in your own life, it's hard to understand. So they come to be with others who get it.
When I came here, like everyone understood they had similar loss, and that was just really nice to feel understood, and like people could actually be honest when they said, "Oh, I know how you feel."
You're treated with respect and sort of dignity.
When I first started coming here, I didn't talk like at all. Hearing other people talk about how they are so much better and they've been going there for a long time, I just felt confident that it would get better, even though it felt like it wouldn't.
The Dougie Center has just helped me cope a lot better than I would have without it.
So the Dougie Center is the National Center for Grief. Obviously they have a great building, they have all these crazy things that they can do. When we start up with Dustin's place, it won't be nearly as cool, but they are national and international, and then they go to places like, they came out for 9/11, they went out for the tsunamis that happened, and they went out for Hurricane Katrina, lots of different things. So we get a lot of information, a lot of things from them, but right now we're going to do an activity. Mr. Habermill is going to explain that.
So with grief and loss, we feel like we're floating around a lot. We're never like together. Like things seem like they're sort of a mess, right? And it's tough. It's a struggle. We don't really see what's going to happen next. The purpose of the grief, the purpose of the loss. We're out wandering, and we like to get things out frustration-wise, right? Whenever we go through some grief or some loss, we ask the question like, why? What just happened? Why did it happen? Why did it not happen to me? Why did it happen to them so early? Why did my friend die young? Why did my great-grandma die? I thought she was healthy. We gotta get that frustration out. We can't keep it inside. Just keeping it inside, not good. That's how you first experience. It's not good when you keep things depressed and died. Okay? So what we're going to do, and I'm going to start here in just a second, is we're going to pass this jar around, and we're going to get our frustrations out a little bit, but maybe some grief and loss. And I want you to name somebody in your life that maybe you lost, okay, that maybe made an impact in your life. Now, if I don't want to put anybody in the position of naming somebody maybe personal, because that's real, that's hard. We had some very brave people earlier do that, and that's hard, it's not easy. So if there's someone like Paul Walker, who played the picture at the beginning, or an actor or an actress, a musician, or somebody maybe famous that you knew of, and then their loss made an impact on you. You never knew them, you never talked with them, but the loss of them kind of stuck out to you. It did something to you. You can name someone like that as well. If you don't, maybe some other people have a pet. Maybe the loss of a pet still has some impact on you. And for some people, pets are almost family. Okay? So I want you to think about it. Okay? And I'm going to start, and the person that I think of when it comes to this is my grandma, my dad's side. She died right after I graduated high school, my senior year. She was 18, kind of figuring out what's going to be the next step. And it sucked at the time. It did, because she was huge in our family. She always hosted every Thanksgiving, Christmas. She was always at every one of my games growing up, and then she was gone. What now? She's never going to see me be in college. She's never going to see me get married. She's never going to see me have a child of my own. And then afterwards, looking back on it, it's pretty crazy, because the inheritance my family got, part of that inheritance went to me going to college, me getting an education, me being able to play baseball allowed me to meet her. And without going to college, I would never have met her. Without meeting her, I would never be becoming a dad. And so out of lots of grief and lots of loss, something came out of it that when I look back on it, kind of nice, kind of beautiful in a way. Okay? So before it gets passed around, would anybody want to start us off?
Also, I know some of you are super strong in here, but we're not going to shake it any harder than that, because the worst thing would be for us to have the marbles like shoot out and break everywhere. So, this is a thing. Anybody want to start? Thank you. Appreciate that. Yep, and you can shake it while you're doing it. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yep, just pass it.
Pass around again. Something that
I've
made
learned
an
that
impact on you.
if I hold it, then people are like, I don't want to talk about it. So if someone else passes it, it just makes it easier.
The big son that died at the school shooting in Orlando.
Yeah, absolutely.
My grandpa.
Yeah. If there was somebody famous who has died, I mean, there's a lot of musicians, all sorts of things. So think of something though. You'll get it back.
Both of my great grandpas.
Yeah.
I had both of the younger brothers on both sides of my parents die when I was younger, and then just last January my grandpa passed away.
Thank you for sharing that.
My uncle hung himself about 2 years ago. My cousin.
He hasn't died yet, but I know in the next few months to maybe a year he will die of ALS, but my grandpa.
Sharing that. So that anticipatory grief.
Most of my grandparents.
Yeah.
My grandpa. My dad.
My aunt.
My cousin.
You guys gotta shake it. Something's
No
coming
one,
from
no one
this, I
goes
promise.
through these things alone. No one goes through these things alone.
Nobody? Just say, I was talking about Heath Ledger the other day, and somebody got real offended that I didn't like him as the Joker. Like, so some of those things really matter. Like, somebody else, like there was a couple musicians that died over the summer that people were really impacted by, things like that. So it doesn't have to be somebody you know.
Grief and loss comes in many forms.
And you can feel free to name all of them. I was gonna say, I have quite a few, so when I sit here, I'm shaking it for like 10 minutes, naming all the people who died in it.
I'll just say my pet
anybody else want it. So otherwise I'm stuck shaking it here all by myself. So my aunt and my cousin died by overdose. I had a friend die by suicide. I had a friend get shot while I was in high school. And all those things impacted me in a different way, and it got really hard. And sometimes we don't always see the hope in it, or we don't see that positive thing. So I'm not saying like every time things are going to be easy, but it really pulled me into the career that I'm in now. And also it's really important like to know that you're not in this alone. There are people who do want to talk with you about it. We don't want anybody to feel alone, because that's really when depression and other things happen. Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy, and we again started off as a mess at the beginning, right? It was just liquid.
It's definitely getting there.
But as we continue to shake it up and go through those 5 stages of grief and say, man, this is real to me. You get some of that peer support. You go to each other. You're willing to talk about it and not suppress it. It's tough, guys. It's tough, guys. It's real. You know, you can't put a filter on death, right? Like we do with all of our images. We can't put a filter on that. That's real. Death is real, and it's something we don't like to talk about. We don't address enough. We just say, we'll get up, we'll go to the next class, we'll do the next thing, we have the next game, we have, you know, a million things to do in life, I got that call I gotta make, or that next shift I gotta work, but we don't stop and just think about what's real, and that's death, and that's grief, and that's loss, and people mourning that, which is an okay thing to do. More grief and loss and mourning and crying, you need to do that. You need to remember the good times, the memories that you had of those people in your lives, whether you were really, really, really close to them or you barely knew them. You need to remember the good things, the happy things. You also need to say it's okay to cry. It's okay to let my emotions out. Okay, it is.
What's not okay is when we choose not to grieve it, and then we're stuck years later trying to figure out why I have so much anxiety, why my body hurts, why these things, because we chose not to grieve that. And that doesn't make you any less of a person. Frankly, to see somebody make the choice to grieve is really brave. So it's really important. Do you guys have any questions while we are?
What's in that?
It originally was heavy whipping for you. Yeah, but we're getting something new out of it. I was gonna say, I think it's about done because you're just gonna need to.
As we go through the stages of grief, as we mourn, as we cry, share our emotions, we think nothing's good's gonna happen. It's just gonna be negative. We're never gonna get out of this funk. Nothing's ever gonna happen. But just like a butterfly doesn't just become a butterfly when it's born, and nature was not how it was not something that it was born and created. And so this was heavy whipping cream at the beginning, okay? And at the end of shaking it and getting the frustration and the emotions out, we actually have butter. And it's something that's good. It's good and it's butter. You have a ball of butter. Gimme. Okay?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Really?
Did you put that on the, you leave that on the radio?
Okay?
Huh?
And so,
No, we did not leave it on the radio.
What are you talking about? And so, it's a reminder that something beautiful can come from the grief and loss that you might have experienced. And so, as a reminder of that, you're going to pass around some of the butter. If you want to use the butter, feel free. If you want to just eat some crackers, feel free. But I want to give you a reason to remember that the grief and loss is okay. You are okay. Just
Yeah, don't eat the marbles.
They're going to be nice for you.
Because I don't want to have to give you that. I'm like the
If you have any questions, now would be a great time.
So you said something about.
Pues a mí que te importa, me lo compré con pinche dinero, culero.
I swallowed my one.
You're not ready yet. Some people can't cry. Some people can't cry.
That's how I feel. It's like impossible. However much I want.
What do they do?
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, sometimes you can't cry, and honestly, like, if that's how you're responding, you're not a bad person for not crying either. Yeah, that's just the other classes. So it's okay, everybody grieves differently. I say, I didn't cry for a long time, and then now I'm old and that's all I do is cry. But I'm also pregnant. Big girl, time anyway. It's just part of it. It's legit butter, right?
That thing.
Serious.
What was that beforehand?
Yeah, you want to
What was that butter beforehand?
It was, it was heavy whipping cream.
It's with cream.
But
no
it's
butter.
heavy whipping cream.
In like it's like a half a gallon.
Well, you
It's half
missed
a
out.
gallon
Sometimes
of
you miss out on
without
things.
butter.
If you churn enough, you pull enough pressure. So this is a little more solidified because it's been in the fridge here. I've home project. Yeah, do it. Make your own butter.
So feel free to eat up and enjoy.
We got about 12 minutes left. If you have any questions for her, please let me know.